Hello, fellow humans. We need to talk about fashion for 5 reasons. The fashion industry is one of the most polluting. Fast fashion contributes to spreading the destructive consumerist culture. Fast fashion is extremely wasteful. Fast fashion exploits poor people. Fast fashion is linked to the adulation of manipulative idols, anxiety and low self-esteem. My message is quite simple. Stop fast fashion. Extravagance is ugly, simplicity is beautiful. I will look at this report from the Hot or Cool Institute in Berlin, show highlights about the effects of fast fashion, and tell you how many new clothes it is okay to buy every year. In the end, I will talk about rediscovering beauty in fashion without destroying Earth. Before we look at this lovely report, let's check the Oxford Dictionary. Fashion, conventional usage in dress, mode of life, especially as observed in the upper circles of society. Conformity to this usage, often personified or quasi-personified. The glassy of fashion and the mold of form. I am become a courtly tobacconist, more for fashion than for liking. Taste and fashion with us have always had wings. To break the spell of fashion would be an achievement. Fashion, that destroying angel. Fashion and bon ton are by no means the same thing. Fashion is the all-absorbing subject. Fashion is as much a part of the dream world of capitalism as its economy, or this human, not in the dictionary. And fast fashion is what you intuitively think it is. Fast-changing trends, fast production, fast sale and delivery, fast use. The report has something to say about this. On page 9 it reads, current trends in fashion consumption, in particular fast fashion, cannot be maintained if we aim to achieve a fair and just transition to climate neutrality. I want to explain now how catastrophic it would be if Earth warmed by more than 1.5 degrees Celsius. Let's see some numbers. The target for fashion consumption is 128 kilograms of CO2e emissions per human per year. Australia is today at 503 kilograms, Canada at 335, Germany 266, and lo and behold, France surprisingly at 146. Only these 5 countries are within the target. At a minimum, the fashion industry contributes 4% of global emissions. That may not seem a lot at the first glance, but it is a lot when we dig deeper, because fashion is the face of social status, and the race for status is what has driven the expansion of the consumer society. When we zoom into some of the countries, we find the richest humans, those making more than $23 per day, consume over 700 kilograms worth of carbon emissions in fashion, while those making under $3 per day consume already in the fair consumption space. These are enormous inequalities within each country. Everywhere we look, north versus south, and inside rich countries, the ruling class consumes enormous amounts of fashion to maintain and grow their status. They are burning our planet for glitz, for caprice, for debauchery. They have elevated the cult of destruction on the glossy covers of fashion shows and magazines. Behind the glitter, there's rot and vapid emotions, immorality and subjugation. Media companies push hard fast fashion in 5 ways. They sell the red carpet dream, Vogue, Elle, Marie Claire and Grazia. Around 40% of content is about special occasion outfits. Top influencers promote the lifestyle of expensive outfits in vast quantities. Editorial teams write about the must-buys of the season. Because if you don't buy, you are a worthless piece of Schmidt. You are less of a human if you don't wear it according to the whims of these Einsteins. They use the words upgrade and update applied to fashion, suggesting that buying more brings you a change. Vogue even talks about mindfulness and confidence. If you believe that a piece of polyester can actually make your brain mindful or make you confident, perhaps you should cough up $1,000 for a scarf. Tabloids have many affiliated links to fashion websites. It's impossible to escape them. Sustainable fashion is a small niche. Georgia Murray at Refinery 29, stylist, and Jess Carden-Morley at The Guardian talk about it, but they are drops in the ocean. Consumption is what dominates far and wide. Buy more, buy often. Staying trendy is about buying. You cannot be trendy if you recycle or repurpose. You have to buy. Every season, every year. Don't even rinse. Just throw away and repeat. And when fashion tells us it's time to dispose, these are the consequences. Disposal also has its own carbon footprint, ranging from under 1 kilogram per Indian person per year to 34 kilograms per American per year. When we look inside those averages, we find yet again that the richest 20% are responsible for 40% of emissions, while the poorest 20% are responsible for under 10%. The richest 20% in the UK emit 80% above the target. 74% of people in Indonesia live below sufficiency consumption levels of fashion. The world is extremely unequal when it comes to getting dressed. All these facts are bad, and the obvious conclusion is that we have to slow down fashion by 2030. This is when things get complicated. First of all, it's not enough if you and I just turn our backs against fast fashion and dress simply. The entire supply chain must also be resized across the entire value chain, from sourcing materials to preparing fibers, spinning yarn, weaving, bleaching, distributing to using should be revolutionized. There are many solutions that can be implemented, and these won't get done if we just wear our underwear until it vaporizes. Yet when it comes to personal lifestyles, these options can make a difference if they become our second nature. We can reduce purchasing of new clothes. We can wear clothes for longer. We can reduce washing and drying. We can buy second-hand clothes. We can dispose responsibly. I am sure all this is common sense to many of you. Reducing purchasing of new clothes saves 2-3 times more emissions than all other options together if 100% of consumers adopted this lifestyle. All these phenomena, Marie Kondo, Fumio Sasaki, Project 333, Unfancy, the 10x10 challenge, promote simplicity, smart taste, quality over quantity as a way to reduce consumption. Less consumption, however, does not mean less beauty or less art or less color. Beauty and novelty do not fundamentally emerge from the act of buying new every season. How much we need to slow down fashion? If you make more than $23 per day in Mexico, you will need to decrease your consumption of fashion on average by 83% by 2030. If you are in the richest 20% of Italians, you will need to slow down on average by 75% by 2030. You may think this is a tough choice because habit, traditions, or just I don't want to. The choice is actually between this and this. This should make the decision easier to make. Science tells us what is a fair consumption space, which is the space below the environmental ceiling and above the sufficiency level. If all humans consumed within this green band here, we would maintain a decent balance with the environment and keep global warming under 1.5 degrees. To bring everyone inside the fair consumption space, the humans living up there above the ceiling will need to slow down drastically. The responsibility is theirs. What do we wear inside the consumption space? We own about 20 outfits or about 74 garments for 2 seasons. We don't buy on impulse. We repair, we know what we buy, we know the fabrics and how they are made. And since we will not have to buy that much, we will have time to do the research. With all that extra free time, perhaps we could go visit this beautiful landscape instead of wasting hours at the mall looking for yet another shirt made of plastic. At the same time, governments also carry the burden of designing better policies, removing from the market harmful fashion options, adding to the market sustainable fashion, creating equitable access for poorer humans to buy sustainable clothing. This is how the sphere of change is complete. The final recommendation of the report is quite simple. If no other actions are implemented, such as repairing, mending, washing at lower temperatures, or buying second-hand, purchases of new garments should be limited to an average of 5 items per year for achieving consumption levels in line with the 1.5 degrees target. It is something well within common sense and doable for the large majority of you watching. The challenge is with the rich class that will have to drop their habits fast. We both know that some sensible rich humans will pay attention to this message and perhaps change their lives, but some of them will not, so then we will have to make them. The most obvious and easy method to implement would be to tax their wealth at 95% or more to simply take away their purchasing power. It was done before, we must do it again. Debauchery, luxury, wasteful consumption is burning our future. Our choice is unlimited and urgent. Beauty in all its natural forms is by definition free and is constructed by the human brain in association with uplifting emotions. Only the consumer culture, accelerated by the desire of capitalism to grow without boundaries, has managed to associate beauty with consumption. Now it is the right moment to unbelieve the story of fast fashion and relearn the story of free, mind-bending beauty. Aesthetics, a word appropriated in 1750 by Alexander Gottlieb Baumgarten, or Alex to his friends, used to mean sensation, taste, or sense of beauty. Baumgarten gave the word a different significance, which is what we use today. To him, aesthetics are a deduction of the principles of artistic or natural beauty from individual taste, and taste is the ability to judge according to the senses, instead of according to the intellect. He saw the judgment of taste as based on feelings of pleasure or displeasure. Against Baumgarten, we have the one and only Leo Tolstoy, who claimed that good, truth, and beauty have nothing in common and may even oppose each other. Leo wrote, "The arbitrary uniting of these three concepts served as a basis for the astonishing theory according to which the difference between good art, conveying good feelings, and bad art, conveying wicked feelings, was totally obliterated, and one of the lowest manifestations of art, art for mere pleasure, came to be regarded as the highest art, and art became not the important thing it was intended to be by the empty amusement of idle people." So then I ask you, do you think fast fashion has anything to do with beauty? With the 2 billion tons of annual carbon dioxide emissions, along with more than 17 trillion gallons of water used in the manufacturing process? How are we convinced that our identity is based on the consumption of fashion? One study suggests that low versus high self-esteem consumers gravitate towards inferior products because those products confirm their pessimistic self-views. For these reasons, low self-esteem consumers gravitate towards inferior products because of the motivation to self-verify. Low self-esteem consumers prefer inferior products only when those products signaled pessimistic self-views and could therefore be self-verifying. Even more interesting, low self-esteem consumers' tendency to choose inferior products disappeared after they were induced to view themselves as consumers of superior products, but remained in the wake of negative feedback. Self-esteem is then a condition that determines consumption to fill psychological gaps. An inferior product is perceived as significantly lower in quality, lower in status, or less aesthetically pleasing than a product alternative. Superiority of products is highly correlated with price. This is how we can put price on beauty, by manipulating the perception of consumers. We can buy fashion to boost our self-esteem or to signal our social status to those below us, or simply signal our status to our own tribe without other humans knowing about it. Such a strange thing is called inconspicuous consumption. Putting fashion and consumption in a wide perspective, which is keeping Earth habitable for humans, is a wonderful exercise in imagination. Some humans in the rich countries, a minority, will need to drastically drop their consumption, while the majority of us can stay in the fair consumption space by buying no more than 5 new pieces of clothing every year and carefully repurposing and discarding the old ones. With imagination and creativity, we can rediscover beauty, uncorrupted, unchained, free, closer to our feelings. It is going to be a transition, an evolution. First, we can unlink in our minds beauty from social status. Second, we can unlink beauty from ownership, from power, and from capitalist mega brands. This means we can construct fashion as directly as possible by ourselves, by buying local, and by buying green products. Fashion can be restored to what it fundamentally is, a representation of beauty and identity, the emotion of peace in the eye of the beholder. We do not need to spend much for this, and we can never truly buy this emotion of peace. Our identity is priceless. Check out my other videos to learn more about the degrowth movement and how we can replace capitalism with the well-being economy, where we can have enough for everyone, forever. Join us on our Discord server, links below. I would like to thank my supporters for saving me from capitalist advertising. They have my eternal gratitude. If you can support this channel, please visit my Patreon page or donate a coffee. Thank you.